So thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, man.
Of course, of course.
Target Number One. I really, really enjoyed this movie. And there's, we are so inundated with big blockbuster movies, with franchises, with bells and whistles. And it's nice to just get back to a film that really, really tells a story. It reminded me of a movie like from the 70s, like something like All the President's Men, or, just a good drama. What was it like for you to attach yourself to something like that?
I'm always attracted to things that are sort of outside of what's being made right now. I think if you're just going to do more of the same, what's the point? You don't have to try very hard to do what everybody wants, and is doing right now. But when something like this comes along and it's telling a story of something obviously a very big case in Canada, but I'd never heard of what happened, the sort of high level corruption that occurred and the cover up and all that. I was surprised I hadn't heard anything about it. And so I became kind of fascinated with it. And then I spoke to Daniel, the director, and his passion for the project. He'd worked on it for, I think, 8 years by the time we first spoke about it. And then he introduced me to Victor. I was able to fly up to Toronto and spend the day with Victor, and he showed me around everything he was kind of dealing with at the time of this story. I was invested from the beginning, and it seemed like, I guess the thing is, let me put it simply, I love working with directors that have a passion for what they're doing, and it's not just plug in by numbers. And this is very much a director's piece, and Daniel was very passionate.
What I love about this story is, obviously it's great when it's rooted in a true story, but just the fact that you're introduced to these characters that are all in 3 very different points in their lives, but they all have an air of desperation.
Yes. Yeah. It's transitions for all of them, for sure. One fighting against the coming dark. One who is trying his damnedest to turn his life around, and one who just doesn't even know what's coming. Like, I think what Victor's best attribute in the film is that he's got this sort of persona that he's protecting and fostering, and he has no clue what fatherhood is bringing for him. So he's just about to run into this wall that he doesn't understand. I admire that and I related to it because I was just about to have my first child when I read the script the first time. So, yeah.
And you see from the beginning that Victor is he's not a simple guy. He's a simple guy in the sense that he's passionate, and I think he jumps into things blindly sometimes based on his passion. But from the minute this thing starts, you see that this he's wrapped up in a lot. He's got a lot of balls in the air.
Yes, he has a lot of balls in the air. He's got a lot of balls.
That too. He does have a lot of balls. Yeah.
He's the way that I sort of pictured Victor in the script, and then having met him, it kind of worked out really well. He's just like, he's a bull, like he's going to push, and he's going to push, and he's going to push, and he sees red, and he's going to go for it, and there's nothing that's going to stop him. And I like that clarity of purpose in this character. I think it's fundamentally interesting because there aren't that many people these days that are like that. And understandably so. It's a very complex world, but Victor has this way of sort of crystallizing what it is that is wrong in a particular story, or in a particular corrupt system that he views, that he sees. He can kind of pinpoint what it is that he wants to go after, and he never stops. And I admire that dogged approach. I think it's really interesting and rare, anyway.
It's pretty telling when he goes in and he's trying to pass his $5,000 ticket to Thailand.
Right.
Like, when does print media have the budgets for those things anymore? So it just shows you how important investigative journalism was at one point.
I think it still is, and unfortunately, there just isn't the money for it necessarily. But it's of the utmost importance.
Absolutely.
Without investigative journalism, there's no real democracy. It's just we're being fed propaganda, essentially. It's
Antoine Olivier Pilon is I'm from Montreal, an incredible actor who we've known here for a while. What was it like playing opposite him? I know you had some pretty choice moments in the movie with him.
Yeah, he's a super talented young man. He's not a kid, obviously. I don't mean to belittle him. He's just getting kind of just kind of getting started. You know what I mean? Like I can see he's moving towards something big, and he's a very humble guy, and he has like a real self-belief that I find a lot of people in this film had like this enormous self-belief that if they didn't have it, this film could never have been made. Daniel Roby, the same thing. Victor, obviously, and Jim Gaffigan, I think his performance was fantastic as well. But working with Antoine, it was great. We only had a couple of scenes together, but the ones that we did have together were impactful, and he was very strong, and he aside from the work that he was doing on set, he was just a genuinely sweet guy, and I think that he's going to be seen in maybe a different light because this is his first English language lead, and he'll be getting a lot more attention from English language films after this for sure.
And lastly, your relationship with Daniel, you guys had a bit of a history because there was a fight to get this thing made, and you were there a lot. From what I read, you were really there with him. You committed to the project. When you guys finally crossed the finish line and you're approaching this thing coming out, what's that like when you guys are, let's say, texting each other or messaging each other? Is it because I mean, obviously this is a very strange time for a film to be coming out, but yet you've got that excitement about it crossing the finish line.
Of course, we have excitement about it crossing the finish line, but if you've met Daniel and you've spoken to him, he's got another script he wants me to do. Like there's something
he's already got you on the hook.
He's down the road, and it's like it is exciting. I'm very curious to see what people's reaction to it is. It's obviously an odd time for a film to come out, but I think a lot of people will be able to see it on VOD. Obviously, we have a lot of people who are looking for good new entertainment, and I would love to see. I just want to hear what the reaction is to the story because the story is so complex.
Yeah, it really is a great story.
Yeah, and so Danielle and I, we're just hoping that people see it. We're just trying to get the word out, and I think people will, and hopefully, the reaction will be good.
Josh, thanks again for taking the time today, and thank you for not taking the easy way out, because you've always chosen really, really cool stuff, man. And I know it'd be really easy to just don on a super suit, but you always do great stuff. You always take the time to choose stuff that really, really is character driven, and I applaud you for that, because I've been a fan, and it's fun to see you continuing with that.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I'll try to keep doing it.
And if you do don a super suit, don't worry. I won't criticize you for it. I mean, I've got superhero tattoos. I'm all right. There you go. All right. Appreciate it, man. Thanks again, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Have a good one.